This is from our recent summit, and if you missed it, don't worry. We have quarterly summits showcasing the best products and services in chiropractic with some of the best speakers, and we hook you up with the best prices on all of those products so that you can help more people in your community.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Chiro AI Summit. Of course, I'm Dr. Jason Deitch, and I am here with a gentleman who probably does not need much of an introduction. I could probably spend all 30 minutes together with you introducing him, his accomplishments, his achievements, his contributions, and so on.
Please don't.
Let me get right to the point and just say, Dr. Guy Riekeman, Guy, great to see you. Thank you for taking time to be a part of this summit. And I'm excited to have a conversation with you about one of the most important topics that I believe you can speak to in a way that very few other chiropractors, human beings, can speak about, because you're one of the only people that have done sort of all 5 parts of the chiropractic experience, from student to practitioner to consultant to chiropractic president, political leader. You've seen it from all sides. You've lived it from all sides. Welcome. And let me just get right into it. How do you see, from your perspective, your history, what's happening in chiropractic education and the impact AI is going to have in the future?
Sure. And I think it's a great topic and really pertinent for today. It'd be easy to sort of fall into old battles of national boards and how they deliver exams, and CCE and how it influenced education, and its an evolution from a more political to an educational quality organization. But I think we'd really miss out on this opportunity. So I want to step back for just a moment and frame this maybe, and then we can go where you want to go, but frame this in the context of what kind of education is out there, whether it's chiropractic education, whether it's K through 12 education, college education. And it really falls down into 3 delivery models. One is the classic, what's known as the Socratic model. That's the learned professor standing at the front of the room, transmitting this mass amount of information that they have, and the absorbent student sitting there taking it in, that's learning the material and going out. We can talk about the upsides and downsides of these things in a moment. So that's the model that almost all chiropractors that I know were trained in, almost 100%, the Socratic model. The other model that came around, and it was really stimulated by COVID, was the need to go to some online education. Now, online education had gotten big before COVID, but not in chiropractic. And so what happened in chiropractic when COVID hit and students couldn't go to class, they had to find a way to transmit the information. And so what they did was they basically did one of 2 things, and there's a broad spectrum here. They either just recorded the instructor giving the normal Socratic presentation from the front of the room, and students could watch it online, or more real online education where they actually use the tools of putting students in small groups, having interactions, passing or being able to go through material more at their pace rather than the instructor's pace. A lot of that, most of that didn't happen in chiropractic. Most of it was the instructor just being videotaped at the front of the room. And a lot of chiropractic schools today have what they call the hybrid model, which is nowadays you can either go to the class and listen to the instructor, or you can not go to school and just sit at home and watch the video of the instructor afterwards. So we'll call that online education. In chiropractic, it was at a very low level of online education compared to some major organizations like Coursera and some others that maybe we'll be able to touch on. And then there's the new thing. It's AI. And this is really right now, people are wondering, how is AI going to affect education? Like most of AI, there's a good, a bad, and the ugly. But the good part of the possibility, and there is some action on this already, the possibility of AI education is that it's going to completely wipe out debt of the student getting out of school. It has the possibility of producing a much more well-trained person that moved through the curriculum based on their learning abilities, not based on trimesters and quarters and having to advance from one level to the next. And it holds the great possibility of providing the training in entrepreneurship, team building, all those kinds of things that we just don't get in chiropractic education, because you're around 40 hours to 80 hours a week, a bunch of other students who have never been in practice. So there's also obviously some bad and ugly associated with it, which we can talk about. But I think for our discussion today, most important point, Socratic model, online education, AI learning, the ups and downs of them, and which ones offer the best opportunity for moving forward.
Well, maybe let's dig down into all three of those categories. There's good and bad to each of them. We're obviously hoping for the best in the future. AI can go either way, depending on how we use it, how we implement it. What's your take on the positive, negatives, and your hope for the future?
Yeah, so if I were to look at the Socratic model, which, having been the president of Palmer in Life, was the model that we used, and we were working hard to try to change that model. We'll get into some of the barriers maybe later to these new kinds of education. I have a hard time defending much of the Socratic model just because of how it's applied. You've got an instructor at the front of the room that may not even speak your native language. The quality of instructors from one college to the next, one topic to the next, changes dramatically. I know, for example, that India 30, 40 years ago made a decision as a country to get involved in two things. One was, as we know today, programming, computers, which is why most of the programming for apps and all of that are either done in the Philippines or in India. But the other thing India got into was, for some weird reason, training people in anatomy, to teach anatomy. So one of the most difficult instructors to find in a chiropractic institution is an anatomy instructor with a PhD. So you're going to find a large number of them are Eastern Indian. And again, we did a study one time, for example, we had 100 students in the class. We found out, or we were watching, we could record this, how many other websites were open on their computers while they were sitting in the class. And the answer was 400. So the average student had 4 other websites open while the class was going on, and they weren't necessarily watching porn. But what they were doing was they were checking everything the instructor said to see if it was up to date, if it was current, if it was the best models out there. So students were totally disengaged because of the quality of the instruction to a large degree. And then, as we all know in our profession, we get tribalism from one school to the next, philosophical tribalism. It's less about learning anatomy and more about whether or not you can have a subluxation or not, or whether we should call a biomechanical problem of subluxation or something else. All the tribalism that goes on. So the Socratic model is so dependent upon the quality of an individual, an organization, a president, a board, an instructor, that I have a hard time defending much of anything good in that particular level. It's great to hang out with a bunch of people. I guess there's some social value in that, but educationally, it's poor.
I have to say it's got to be based a lot on your experience and the ability to, as you said, find the right people to do the job. That seems to be the hard part.
And it's hugely expensive, right? You're paying all of these faculty members, PhDs. You got to have classrooms. Students demand certain quality of classrooms. So, it's a slippery slope that once you're in it, all the model you have to create is expensive. It's not high quality education. It leaves people in the dust who can't keep up in certain subjects. You and I both know some people are great with their hands and other people are really great with books. And so it takes them different amount of time to move through. And that's where online education came along. Real, true online education solves some of those problems, like being able to work through information at your own pace versus someone else's pace. It didn't fit the institutions because they're trimester, quarter, based. So it was tough. And so most of this online, as we talked about earlier, resorted to just filming instructors and adding in a few graphics and some special bells and whistles, which eliminated some of the problems, but it created other problems also. The big issue with that was faculty was not willing to put up with it. You had to retrain faculty. At Life, for example, we went through a whole program of starting to do mastery-based, outcomes-based education rather than just content information, content-based. And one, it required a complete restructuring of classrooms, complete restructuring of the time during the day, because students were only in class for a portion of the day. Then they were in small groups doing work on projects outside of that sort of general conversation. The faculty were teaching less. They were there to facilitate conversations versus standing up to the front of the room and just passing out content and testing somebody on the end of it. And in the end, the faculty basically killed it, right? It eliminated 25% of the faculty who were not qualified to be able to do it. Secondly, created huge amounts of cost for facilities restructuring. And third, they just didn't want to do it. You follow me? They just didn't want to do it. And so it just drags into nothingness.
If only there was a better way. And I don't think most of us watching need to relive the experience of going to chiropractic.
Yeah.
We know the limitations. What do you see moving forward as the future? You mentioned the Alpha School model.
Yeah. So let me just sort of do a metaphor, so to speak, although it's real, and then show you this short 2-minute video on something called the Alpha School, which is a K through 12 school experience based on AI. So let's say you and I are at dinner and you're not a chiropractor, I am, and you're having the conversation, say, gosh, I wanted to be a chiropractor, but then life got in the way. I got married. My spouse had a job. We couldn't pack up and move to Atlanta or Davenport or Portland, Oregon. And now we've got kids, and, there's a 5th grader and a 9th grader, and I've got a great job, and, I don't want to go $350,000 in debt, and I'd have to go back and get some prerequisites. And so what basically happened to us over the years is we took the second career chiropractor out of the equation, right? But besides the fact that it's expensive and you have to uproot your family. So imagine you and I having dinner. You say, I always wanted to be a chiropractor. And I said, you know what? I just slide my iPhone across the table and say, fill out this quick application. And the next day you get a call and someone says, we've reviewed all of your records, easy to do. And you need these 3 prerequisites. So this afternoon, Amazon is delivering your books. They'll be on your doorstep when you get home this evening. And you'll get a call from a coordinator who will set up your schedule with you. And so you go through this, you do it at home, and guess what? You're still at your job. Your kids are still in their school, right? Your spouse is still teaching at the local high school, whatever he or she is doing. You follow? You get that done. All of a sudden, you get a call and say, not next term, but right now, tomorrow you're going to start your chiropractic program. You're ready to go. Your books are showing up. Again, a coordinator will be in touch with you. You're going to have to start allocating this much time every day to this particular issue. We want to set you up with, and we can talk about this later, we want to set you up with your clinical experience and training, which will start almost instantaneously. And boom, you're off and running, right? Right then. Right? Here's the deal. Since you keep your job, your spouse keeps their job, you're going to graduate with no debt. Because let's face it, 2/3 of the $350,000 worth of debt that students leave chiropractic schools with are living expenses, not tuition. Tuition's around $125,000, give or take. You follow me? So one is it's going to be less expensive to deliver, probably, right? Secondly, you're not going to have the debt from moving, relocating, and not being able to work for a number of years while you're sitting in classes all day long. Third, you're going to move through the curriculum at your own pace. You'll see that in the Alpha School. You may get through anatomy very quickly because it clicks for you. Biochemistry may be tough. You may be at a different level in that, and you may be at a completely different level in some other subject. I used to say, when I talked about this, plus you're learning from Bruce Lipton, But that's not the case. You may not be learning from anyone. AI is going to be teaching the courses. You follow me? And we know with Grok, for example, that the day Grok came out, it had all the information in any subject that had ever been produced or was available on the planet. So astrophysics, Grok, the day it came out, had every PhD paper ever written, every concept, every lecture ever given on astrophysics. Grok, the first day, was asked to take the SATs. It had never had an introduction to any of the subjects. It got 100%. It took the law exam, got 100%. Took the medical boards, got 100%. You follow me? So I don't need Bruce Lipton teaching me cell biology. Grok may pull in Bruce Lipton, but Grok is going to be teaching me cell biology, and I'm going to be learning on my own. You would say, well, how do I get the clinical training? Well, I'll just take the U.S., for example. Although this model works better in Europe, but if you took 10 for-profit, high-volume, for-profit chiropractic functional neurology centers, every whistle and bell, state-of-the-art, highly profitable, multi-million-dollar a year, all that kind of stuff, you place 10 of those clinics strategically in the United States, you'd be within a 3-hour drive of 85% of the American population. So while you're keeping your job, you may come down on a Friday afternoon, stay till Monday afternoon. You'll be working in the clinic during that time frame based on whatever skill set you're needing to learn at that point in an entrepreneurial setting of a successful practice. That's the model.
Yeah, it is fascinating. Why don't we take a look at the video, let everybody look at what the Alpha School model is, and we'll be back to talk about it right on the other side of the video.
Schools that have no teachers that utilize AI are outperforming normal schools by 650%, and they're spreading fast.
I'm in 8th grade science, and then 9th grade language, 10th grade reading, and then 7th grade math.
How old are you?
I'm 11.
You're 11. Who's teaching you?
I think the app is teaching me, but I'm also teaching myself.
If you think the education system is broken, you're right. Alpha School isn't your average classroom. No teachers pacing the front, no chaotic group work. Instead, every student gets 2 hours a day of one-on-one AI tutoring. Then for the rest of the day is all life skills, public speaking, entrepreneurship, teamwork, skills that actually matter outside the classroom. Students are testing in the top 2% nationwide, the top 2%, with some showing 6.5 times the academic growth of their peers in traditional schools. Traditional schools are just drowning. In the US, only 35% of the 4th graders are proficient in reading, and in maths it's even lower. Only 59% of students regularly show up, and the dropout rates are hitting decade highs. The parents, the teachers, and the kids all know something's broken. Alpha School shows us what happens when learning is customized. And the AI doesn't get tired, it doesn't play favorites. It meets the students exactly where they're at every single day. And the students are thriving on the one-on-one AI interaction. There's no more wasted hours, no more rigid curriculums, just rapid focus, effective learning. And here's the uncomfortable truth. If this works at scale, why keep the human teachers at all? If they're not working, why keep them? It's already spreading super fast. Alpha schools are popping up across the United States and demand is skyrocketing. Once this model is more refined, it could easily become the global standard. It's more than just a new teaching method, it's a glimpse into the future. This is what it's going to look like. AI is coming for education, and honestly, it might save it. Teachers are already expressing that they can't teach the kids. They won't focus. And if this is the only way to get them focusing in, why not give it a try? Are AI teachers the end of human educators? Is it the beginning of a better way to learn, or is it the destruction of the world that we know? What are the dangers of taking the human interaction away from learning? Comment below and let's talk about it.
Yeah, so the Alpha School was started by a group of entrepreneurs from Silicon Valley. Interestingly enough, it's housed in Austin, Texas. Their tuition range is about $20,000 a year. And a lot of people say, well, and you saw this in the video, they'll say, well, the kids are just learning in front of a machine, in front of technology. But they're only there 2 hours a day. And the rest of their 6 to 7 hours a day are working on teams. They're working on projects to develop businesses. They're learning entrepreneurship. They're learning all the skill sets that we never learned in chiropractic school about being successful as a human being and being successful in a business, right? So they serve grades 6 through 12 originally. That was the way it's set up. They now do K through 12. It's based on real problem solving, and it's based on mastery and outcome, not based on just getting through a topic at bare minimum, passing a test within a given time frame. So it's completely tailored to every student. It's unbiased. There's no instructor at the front of the room that has a bug up their rear end that day, or doesn't like a student in the classroom who have decided their class is going to be the hardest class in the school. They're going to fail as many students as the whole routine.
We've all been there.
Yeah. So that's Alpha Schools. And I'm in touch with them right now about not only expanding it. They have about 7 schools, I believe, nationally right now. We're looking at wanting to start one of these in Puerto Rico. I think my real goal would be that the entire island of Puerto Rico would be under Alpha School to see what would happen to an entire culture that was raised that way. Think about the educational outcomes of that. But we're also in conversation about how difficult and what the steps would be to turn this into professional education, i.e. chiropractic.
Well, let's talk about it. In the time we have left, what does the vision of the future of chiropractic education look like? And I guess maybe there's 2 different ways of thinking about it here in America and then internationally. What do you see? What do you hope?
So if we use the model I talked about, as I said, it applies really well to Europe because of the language issues, right? The cultural and language issues. So if you look at starting a school in Ireland, there's a particular language. You want to start a school in Italy, there's a different language, but it's more than language. Like Italy, for example, you could place a school in either Florence or Rome and be within a short train ride of every person in Italy to come in for their education. So the model fits perfectly. You could have a Polish school, a Serbian school, an Italian school. Once you get the model set up, it's easy to push a button and transform the entire curriculum from English into Italian. I could do that. You and I do that with videos every day that we send out to patients. I can send out a video in British English and 3 minutes later put out the same thing in Farsi or Hebrew, right? So it's not difficult to change the language. The issue would be building the clinics, 1 clinic per country that students then would be able to go do their clinical training in. As I mentioned in the States, which I think is probably the last area that this is going to come to, I hate to say it. One, because education is so ingrained here on a particular model. My belief is that none of this is going to come out of the current chiropractic schools. It's too big of a shift to not think about having location-based education, location-based faculty members. As you saw in the Alpha School, there are no faculty members, right? There are coordinators. So I don't see that coming out of any of the schools in the States. I think CCE would go along with it, interestingly enough. I think states would have to change. Ohio, I think it still has requirements that you have to spend X number of hours in a classroom. That's why they take roll every day. It's an old law from back in the 1920s, right? When the Socratic model was the only model that existed, they needed to make sure you were sitting in the class if you were going to learn the material. So I think there would be state barriers here because there's 50 different states.
Right.
But I think the model could work here. And I think one of the big, Europe, it seems to me for the most part is a natural. And the third thing is, of course, areas of the world that we're not in yet. We need to be. Chiropractic needs to be more than USA and Europe and Australia if we're going to really have the impact of the vision of the founders and those of us who have a vision for our profession.
It is what appears to be destined in some way. Something is going to change. Something's going to evolve. The question is what? You can sort of see the positive sides of things. Imagine if it didn't cost very much. You didn't have to move to a school, relocate your family, stop what you're doing in order to physically be at a school. let's address, as we're sort of closing up, let's address,
and get a better education.
and you assume give a better education.
More successful. Yeah.
Let's just address, what the criticisms, of course, will be. Chiropractic is a hands-on profession. How do you address that? What are the downsides? Who is in charge of the curriculum? Somebody's going to make the decisions about, what's being taught, what's not going to be taught, what the philosophical perspective is. Is AI able to, in some way, maybe transcend, I'll say, the personality issues that often silo us into those tribes and maybe give us an opportunity to see it from a bigger or higher perspective? What do you think the critics are going to say, and what would you say to them?
I think the answer to that right now is we don't have an answer.
Okay.
In every particular area, human politics will eventually creep into the conversation. I know, for example, that getting started with this, pulling in, along with myself, groups of people that are not necessarily in the same tribe is at least a beginning place for that. We can talk about, there's one school that's actually on this particular route or headed in this direction. They're not there yet, but they're taking steps in this direction and they're open to it. So I think there's that. You and I have had conversations, and we've put them off to another day and time, about how AI is going to affect practice. Already, AI is analyzing x-rays, taking all the information we know about biomechanics of the spine, applying it to where patients need care. And I've said this in the seminar, they're already doing this in medicine. In fact, 2 months ago, there was the first AI totally robotic spinal laminectomy of spinal surgery with no doctors involved at all. It was all roboticized. If they can do that, they can certainly adjust. They certainly will be able to analyze. And we've already done reports of findings where we have 3 people in the room, the patient, the doctor, and Grok AI. And Grok participates, jumps in, talks about options, just like there's a third party sitting in the room. So the only reason why this hasn't happened in chiropractic yet is we're too small. I hope this is okay. They don't give a shit about us, right? But that doesn't mean that it's not coming. So I think there's a lot of things that may be the bad and the ugly of AI in chiropractic. But relative to education, I think there's nothing but the possibility of uphill, unless you're already a school or a faculty member at an existing school, and you're going to find out how it impacts you, which unfortunately we try to keep out of those politics, but they will creep in.
That's going to happen across the board in all of education. Wouldn't you agree? This is not exclusive to chiropractic. This is universal, all of society. Yeah.
I mean, let's face it, trucks are driving now between Houston and Dallas with no drivers. They can go 24 hours a day. They don't have to stop every 8 hours and rest. Homes are being built 3-dimensionally from computers. I mean, we could just go on down the line. IBM just laid off 8,000 workers in their HR departments because they got one chat bot that could do it better than 8,000 people. Amazon with their dark grocery stores just laid off, 16,000 people, and more are coming. So this isn't going to be unique to chiropractic. In fact, one other quick comment just on this, because you and I both think that we have great hope for this. I don't want to get too in the weeds, but they just put a computer program up against 22 of the top medical specialists in the world working together. They gave them the 302 most difficult cases that JAMA keeps. The medical doctors were in the low 20 percentile of working together, getting the correct diagnosis. And the AI, the chatbot, was right at 90%. I think it was 93% accuracy. So what need is there? If you're a medical doctor, if you can listen to the patient's symptoms, come up with all the information and knowledge, and then be able to recommend, if you're a medical doctor, a course of care without having to worry about a drug rep, selling you their most recent drug or a drug you've used for 40 years and you're just used to it. You follow me? We're going to see this in every field, not just chiropractic.
Yeah, I even more would be concerned if I were a medical doctor about the profession no longer existing.
100%.
Because all it is an algorithm and a dispenser of drug, surgery, etc. At least I'd like to think chiropractic for the foreseeable future will remain some level of done by hand. As we close up,
But let me make a comment about that, because I know it happened yesterday. Go back and listen to my piece on MLIQ and AI in the app, because we handle that. What will be the role of the chiropractor? I covered that in that presentation, and it's not going to be what we've done in the past. And by the way, we already have instruments that adjust the spine. They're just not roboticized.
Yeah.
You follow me? I don't think the hands-on, if we're selling knowledge and skill set, if that's all we have to sell, which is what you're saying, medicine, all they have to sell is knowledge and skill set, AI is going to do both those things better. We're going to have to be something different than just someone that has knowledge and can provide a skill set, an adjustment, because those can all be roboticized and do it better, right? Go listen to my thing the other day. We'll talk about what it is.
Well, let's close up in our final minutes together. Leave us with a message of hope and inspiration for the future. You are the most experienced person I know in our field. You're the most visionary person I've known, predicting the future and in many ways creating it. What should we be hopeful for as we look to the future of our chiropractic profession and the impact AI is going to have on it?
Yeah, I think we're at a point where we have the opportunity. There's two extremes in AI. One is nobody's going to have a job. Everybody's going to be out of work. It'll be chaos in society. The other extreme is, and we see this so much with chiropractors, I'll just wait it out. I waited out insurance. Yeah, it changed things. I waited out the internet. I waited out computers. This isn't going to be this. You can't wait out AI in this particular case. You're either going to be wiped out by it or you're going to be in the game. And if you're in the game, there's some great hope, right? Better chiropractors, better educational training, the ability to use AI to make better analysis of the patient and care options for the patient, right? In the most effective way. The ability to help patients lay out a chiropractic lifestyle, not just the adjustment, right? They need guides, not skill. Yes, now they need us for skill set to move a bone, so to speak, or stimulate the nervous system. But the bottom line is, what they need from us is be able to take all the massive information coming at them and help them put that together into a lifestyle that makes sense. You follow me? That chiropractic is at the core of. So we're going to be able to train people to be able to do that, to access AI, to provide better care for patients, to be better chiropractors, to understand the spine and the nervous system and the body more effectively. And we're going to be able to do that all over the world. All we need is a computer and a clinic somewhere for people to get the skill set training in. So, this is why I'm a big fan of Christine Cunliffe and what she's doing at the McTimoney School in England, right? McTimoney School sort of they started in the 30s, took the hit for a long time because they offered weekend education. And of course, the Socratic method hates weekend education. They obviously then moved over the decades to more traditional education, but kept that whole notion of being able to train on your schedule, not necessarily our schedule. So they have multiple curriculum tracks. And so Christina also has, like you and I, a great passion for seeing chiropractic around the world. And since her school is accredited, wherever she opens up, that school as a branch is automatically accredited. But she's opening up all over the world. So we opened up in Hong Kong, Madrid, Ireland just is opening its first class. Rome is next, Poland. So she's on the track, and I just spent some time with her. We get together frequently. She is absolutely 100% committed to finding a way to get to this alpha school model for chiropractic education, because her brain is already into it, and she has the passion like you and me to get it done. So I think there's some great hope for chiropractic around the world. And I think the AI model is going to give us the skill sets to do it. In fact, if I have a plea, I don't have anything to sell here, but Ireland's getting ready to open up. If you're a chiropractor in Ireland or that part of the world, get in touch with the McTimoney College and get your students into that school that's opening up. So it's a great option. One last comment, and I appreciate your shout out to me, but I was looking at our mission statement that we wrote when I left life and started MLIQ, the business, and some other things we're doing. The first line says, we're master strategists and designers of the future. We're visionaries producing disruptive innovation. We're crazy enough to think we can change the world and committed enough to actually making it happen. And so as long as I get to keep participating in that, in this case, re-strategizing education, how chiropractors practice, I'm one happy puppy as I'm headed to the end.
I love it. Now, I think I speak on behalf of tens of thousands of chiropractors, probably millions of people, when I say thank you. Thanks for your service, for what you've done over the many decades, for the impact you've had through the different phases of your career. And besides the impact it's had on me personally, I know it's affected many, 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 many people in the world, in our profession, and so on. So I hope you keep it up. Thank you for pushing the envelope as far as it can possibly go, always looking ahead at the future, at the horizon, and sort of bringing it back to us to digest it, try to make sense of it, and figure out what next steps we should be taking in our practices, in our lives. And thank you for all you've done.
For both of us, it's a joy and a curse to have to do this. So I appreciate partnering up with you on all the things we've done as we move chiropractic forward.
Right on. Thank you, everyone, for being a part of this session at the Chiro AI Summit. Stay tuned for more. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Have a great day, everyone.
If you want the best deals on products and services, along with some of the best speakers in chiropractic, you're going to want to register for our next summit coming up soon. Click on down below and register today.